Hi guys, how are you doing today? Welcome to my channel. Anyway, today I really wanted to talk about giftedness, high IQ, and ADHD because for some reason I really get negative responses especially when I talk about IQ. And I think what I want to do today is really just like truly what are those labels and what personally do I mean by them? And not just what they are, but also what they aren't, what they don't mean. It's crucial here. Because yes, so I'm twice exceptional, I'm gifted, I have ADHD, and this comes from real diagnosis if ever you want to know. But yes, these labels, they come with a lot of baggage and resistance. ADHD is often seen as elitist, and I think it can be in some way. I think Mensa is a little bit elitist, but what does it do in society truly, Mensa? Like nothing. So anyway, ADHD is really everywhere online. It's like everyone has ADHD, so they're misconstruing the reality of a diagnosis versus surface symptoms of being distractible. But behind these labels, there are very real experiences, and real emotional experiences, and they're often invisible, misunderstood, and emotionally intense. That's why I want to talk about them. So, the series now where I'll talk about this neurodivergent profile, it's really not to show off. It's not to make you feel inferior or trigger anything, like any insecurity that we all have within us. That's not my aim at all. It's really just about giving like a realistic, balanced, and human portrait of what it's really like to have those labels. And so I'll talk about like the actual psychological traits that are associated with both giftedness, ADHD, and also twice exceptional. And I think other people who have other neurodivergent profiles will still be able to relate. And I'll base it on what the research says and how it shows up in daily life. Because, being twice exceptional, it's really not about being better than you or worse than you or whatever. It's not about ranking. It's really just saying you're not in this pool of people, you're actually in this pool. That's all it means. It's qualitative. It's simply different. And it also means that you're living with a lot of contradiction when you're twice exceptional. So you think really fast, but you lose focus, you feel deeply, but then get really overwhelmed. You see the big picture, you really do, but you forget your keys and your water bottle. And you're highly driven, curious, and intuitive, but you're just exhausted all the time. So in each episode of the series, I'll explore each of these traits, the bright side, the dark side, the tips and the tricks that I've amassed. But before that, I really want to anchor this in true definitions, because it seems it is important to do that first. So let's start with part one. What does gifted mean? It's really, that's the biggest. It's the one that holds the most resistance, the gifted label. So let's go into it. So gifted, it's not a compliment, and it's not a social status, and it's not even about like achievement or whatever. It's a term that's used in educational settings and in clinical psychology across many different countries to describe a person with significantly advanced cognitive functioning. Now, this is what's important. So yes, typically this is measured through an IQ test, usually the WAIS-4 or the WISC-5, and a gifted person will score in the top 2%, which is usually an IQ of 130 or above. I've heard that IQ is going down, so maybe that might change. I don't know. But IQ isn't everything. Cognitive ability isn't everything, all right? But it is a scientifically validated measure of one thing, general cognitive ability, and it includes things like verbal reasoning, working memory, processing speed, fluid and crystallized intelligence. It is very useful to measure the cognitive ability of someone. It's incredibly useful in differential diagnosis to see if someone perhaps has cognitive disability. And I think we can all agree that using IQ to screen for cognitive disability or difficulties is accurate and validated and okay. Yet when we do it the other way, where it's cognitive giftedness, there's a lot of resistance, and I think that's hypocritical. So IQ is about cognitive ability. Does it ever say, or does it ever pretend to be about anything else? No. It isn't about creativity or wisdom or kindness. It doesn't even measure social intelligence or your level of mental health or how ambitious or hardworking you are. So it might say a gifted individual is superior to the norm. Yes, it is superior to the norm in cognitive ability, but that is one trait. It doesn't mean that this person is superior to another in terms of kindness, morality, beauty, service, ambition, hard work, like anything else I just said. It's just one trait. Let's stop trying to be against it because we're putting things onto IQ that it's not even pretending to do. So what it does is measure how efficiently and effectively your brain processes complex information, because intelligence, cognitive ability, is about the ability to understand and solve problems well and quickly. And yes, intelligence is being redefined. So intelligence it was before just cognitive ability, but now they're adding maybe street smarts. They're adding maybe emotional and social intelligence. And no, their IQ doesn't measure that. So being gifted also has other things, other traits. It's not just IQ. There's also deep intellectual curiosity, high sensitivity or emotional intensity, fast learning, and also boredom in structured settings, a strong sense of justice and fairness, and a questioning of authority and the status quo, and existential thinking, maybe even existential depression at a young age. So that's why the gifted label, it's not about being better, it's about having a brain that works really differently than the majority of the population, and it comes with both gifts and challenges. That's what giftedness is. Now, part 2, what's ADHD? Okay, ADHD, that's also a big trend, but ADHD, what it is a neurodevelopmental disorder recognized in the DSM. It is a disorder in the DSM. It needs a diagnosis. Can't stress that enough. You might suspect you have it, but it needs a diagnosis. And it has 3 subtypes: the inattentive type, which is my type, the hyperactive impulsive type, and the combined profile that has those 2 types together. And ADHD, it's not just about being distracted, restless, or having a hard time concentrating. If you experience that, that might be stress and having just so much to do in our modern society and so much information all the time. It might not be ADHD, and it's a brain-based difference. Brain-based, it's organic, biological, you can see it in executive functioning. So in sustained attention, impulse control, working memory, self-regulation, and time management. And in real life, it can look like racing thoughts and inner chaos, which can lead to a lot of anxiety. Difficulty focusing, unless deeply interested, so you can have hyper focus and a lot of attention. It's not that you always lack attention, it's that you can't really control it. Emotional intensity and mood swings, chronic procrastination or perfectionism, and forgetting appointments, important things, or zoning out in conversations. And yeah, this is just really the source of so much anxiety. I can tell you right away, but we'll talk about that in other videos. So it's not laziness, and it's not just a personality trait, and it's not just about being a bit, I'm distracted. It's a valid clinical diagnosis, and it's based on structured assessments by neuropsychologists or psychiatrists. And this is important, by the way, because anyway, I'll go back to that later at the 4th part, which is how to get diagnosed. Now part 3, what is twice-exceptionality? Well, twice-exceptionality is having both at the same time. So it means that an individual is gifted, but also has another neurodivergent thing. That can be autism, ADHD, I think it can be things like dyscalculia or dyslexia, but anyway, And so that's why, yes, it's called twice exceptional, and it sounds super arrogant, but I see it more as the exception. You're the exception twice. It's not really like you're so exceptional. Maybe, I mean, some people might do that, I don't know. But it's really more about, being the exception. There you go. So your brain is wired for high level complexity, but you also struggle to function in day-to-day life, which is really bizarre. And there's a metaphor that's quite popular, and it's the fact that it's like having a Ferrari engine, but with bicycle brakes. Brilliant. And so you might be insightful and intense and deeply capable, but you're also super scattered, easily overwhelmed, and chronically anxious. 2E people, they often experience feeling too much and not enough at the same time. They have really big ideas and interesting ideas, but they have like difficulty just completing them or implementing them. They have fast verbal processing, but they forget what they're saying mid-sentence. They're being praised for their intelligence, but they're really struggling behind that. And I think that that's the worst thing. When you're twice exceptional, the giftedness masks your neurodivergence. Your other label for me was ADHD, and then the ADHD masks your giftedness. So you sort of look normal. It balances you out, but you're struggling so much with a lot of things. And often being gifted, having a high IQ, meaning cognitive ability, is often considered a strength. So you're using that to sort of deal with the difficulties, but you're developing ways of coping that may not be actually really healthy for you. So that's why diagnosis matters, right? It's not to pathologize someone, but it brings clarity and it brings tools. And the 2E label helps explain the paradox that people are living, the gifted people are living, and it guides them toward real support, real coping strategies, and self-acceptance, self-knowledge. And that is just crucial to become healthy, happy human beings. Everyone deserves that. And that's why I want to say too how much diagnosis is important. Giftedness, yes, there should be an IQ test, and I'll go into it. Because we live in a time now where we're really against labels and we want a lot of freedom for them, right? We're against the idea of genders. We're against the idea of using gender pronouns. We're really into this idea of I identify as this, thus I am this. We can even see it in the autism realm. People who I would consider maybe just highly sensitive or appropriating the autism label, which I find horrible for people with actual autism. But and I think there's a part of it that's beautiful, saying this is my experience and I will not wait to be validated by y'all to really claim that experience for myself. I think there's something beautiful, but you need a diagnosis in serious things like this because they bring true challenges, and you need to know, is this really what I have or something else? Because the way to treat things is just really different. And so science is really important. Your emotions are important, yes, but science is too, even if it may trigger negative responses in you. Some people are against the earth being round and are saying it is flat. There's just a certain point where science is what keeps us grounded to reality and validity. So part 4, how do you know if you're 2E? Well, to receive these labels in an official manner, here's what's usually involved: a full neuropsychological assessment that lasts several hours. And I understand it's very expensive, but these are professionals who study the brain, which is the most complex organ we have. Look at doctors and like physical health, how expensive that is. Yeah, we're sort of angry, but we're like, we sort of understand too. Why isn't it the same for neuropsychologists, right? We need to pay a lot of money because it's crucial work, and mental health, mental disorders, they're serious. So there you go. Then you also need IQ testing like WACE or WISC. You need, and also it's administered and measured by someone who's trained for that. You need executive functioning tests like the CPT or TOVA for ADHD, or another test if what you're screening for is autism, for example. and you need clinical interviews and developmental history. And then for giftedness, you need to see an IQ of 130 or more, and you need signs of emotional depth, insight, complexity, and asynchronous development. And then for ADHD, the difficulties you see, they must be persistent, impairing the main domains of your life, and present across multiple settings, not just at work, for example. And it's not just occasional distractibility. So there you go. I wanted to make this video really just to clarify what I mean when I'm going to be talking about giftedness and ADHD. This is what I mean, and it's a real thing. Like, it exists, it's validated. And so I want to bring light to how hard it can be to live with those labels, but that there is still hope. We need to know that we have those things when we have those things to be able to heal, to find tips and tricks that will allow us to function healthily and well in society. And that's why I'll explore the many different things that can come up from being neurodivergent. My next video will be about mental hyperactivity. I'll also then talk about emotional intensity, then sensory sensitivity, because those things need to be spoken about, I believe. So there you go. These labels, they're not your whole identity. I just want to stress that, but they are the foundation of who you are. It's how your brain works. So it can really help understand patterns, challenges, needs. And then being chewy, it doesn't mean you're broken or better or whatever. It means you're complex. You're both fast and slow. You're intense and sensitive. You're capable and you're chaotic. And there's nothing wrong with that. So there you go. That's what I wanted to say. And that's what the series will be. And thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate you spending your time with me. Have a good day.